Yeah, so it's actually very flattering to be asked to be stood in front of you and actually talk about how we went about getting the funding. David made the mistake of saying, I do take the opportunity to tell the audience about Kingshay. So I've got half an hour, 25 is on Kingshay, not quite, but we'll see. I'll leave you to judge. Anyway, what I plan to do is tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do, then talk about the process of consortium building and getting agreements in place, actually writing the bid, the timeline that it took, and then just at the end a little bit about the actual project itself. And I'm very pleased to say that we have our collaborators here in the room, so they'll be checking to make sure I'm telling the truth. So, who's Kingshay? Well, we're independent dairy specialists. We've been going for a while, working with dairy farmers throughout the UK and a few overseas as well. And the sort of thing we do is provide independent, practical, farm-based, very often, research, advice and services. And we provide that through having a membership for farmers, vets, associate consultants and corporate organisations. We provide consultancy, both at a very much technical level and business advice, a lot of training workshops throughout the country. A whole range of services, dairy costings, analysis services, various products. And finally, the last part is we do a lot of development, particularly of innovative IT solutions, but developed from the background of having a good understanding of what farmers are about and what it is they want. We're based in Somerset near Glastonbury. When Peter and I left this morning, we weren't underwater. In fact, it was slightly worrying if we are, because we're about 100 feet above sea level. So that's a real good NIMBY attitude, isn't it? We're not on the levels, we're just above them. We're based on a commercial dairy farm in a village called West Bradley, about 4 miles from Glastonbury. Originally, it was part of the Glastonbury Abbey estate until Henry VIII made a mess of them. So there's some pretty interesting architecture in the building. We're actually renting this part of the building off the owner, a gentleman called David Cotton. So it's his commercial dairy farm, but uniquely we have access to the whole of that farm to conduct our field trials and so on. So we have full access to the whole of the farm, the livestock, and indeed a lot of his facilities. So a very interesting setup, not one that I know that anybody else has. This picture is rather out of date, so if there's anybody in the audience with a drone-mounted camera who'd like a little job coming and taking a more up-to-date picture, I'd be happy. So practical on-farm trials, just a quick example of the sort of thing we do. Grass is pretty important to dairy cows, so you've got to grow the right ones. You look at a field like that, it looks patchy. That's because it's got strips of individual clover varieties running up the field, then sown with individual varieties of ryegrass. So we're not repeating what NIAB does, we're taking that sort of research into practice, and that's very much what we're doing, is taking research into practice. And we're monitoring that, finding out which grasses grow best, which clovers perform best in combination with those grasses. And we obviously need to be able to analyse all of that data, and we use some pretty sophisticated machinery to do that, and that machinery looks like this. Because she knows better than anybody which grasses she's going to eat. So on paper you can get a grass variety that looks brilliant, but unless the cows will eat it, you're wasting your time. So the cows get free access to the whole field. You'll find some squares being eaten down on the floor and other ones being totally rejected. And that's a pretty powerful message when you take a group of farmers across a field and they really go home going, do you know what, I'm going to really think pretty hard about which varieties of grasses I'm going to be putting in my seed mixtures going forward. And as an example of how we've taken that sort of practical research forward into commerciality, we actually then now supply those seed mixtures that we've formulated based on the research that we've done. And that's been going for many years, and it's very successful. But it's not just about field-based trials. We're also very much interested in cow comfort. Comfortable cows. Comfortable cows are happy cows, they're healthy cows. That's what you need in order to make a profit. You need to look after your cows well, and all this nonsense you hear about mega dairy is going to be permanently cruel to cows is just not worth the air it occupies. So we're there to help people identify what the comfort factors are in their setup, what's missing, and so on. And this is the sort of report, this is one we just published, drawing together a whole range of factors to help somebody to be able to do a self-assessment, if you like, of the comfort factors in their cow environment. And a very important part of that is, for the majority of dairy herds, they're housed in cubicles, in cubicle housing. So on the farm, the buildings there have a huge range of different cubicles on test at any one time. So we invite manufacturers to come and put in a set of their cubicles, and then we monitor how well they work, how much the cows take to them, are they durable, do they break when the cows lean on them, that sort of thing. So we've been doing that for a very long time, and we've built up a huge knowledge bank about what's good and bad about cubicle divisions. You might think they're just a bent bit of tube to keep cows apart, but you know what? They're a lot more subtle than that, but cows are a hell of a lot more subtle than most people give them credit for. Just go back to the grass varieties, they know which ones they like, which ones they don't. They also know when they're comfortable and when they're not. And it's all to do with the design of the bedding that you provide for them. And as a result of that research that we've done, we've actually now got patent pending cubicle division that we designed as a result of that research. And it takes account of the fact that not all of the cows in herds are the same size. So you need to be able to adjust the cubicle to accommodate different sizes of cows. So if your average cow is a smaller cow, you'll need to keep her stood on that bed, so when she lies down, her back end's over the scrape passage, and so it's achieved by a neck rail positioning there and the brisket board, but most importantly that neck rail. And what we've discovered is this, having this angled here, this moves that up proportionately to the size of the cow, not only to the height of it, but also the length of it. And there they are, installed on the farm. Now, they're now being brought to market, and we've licensed them to GEA, and they are installing them throughout the UK. So, a satisfying outcome for that practical research. I talked about consultancy. We do general consultancy, but we also do specialist consultancy. So there's one service we have called How's My Herd, and it looks exactly what we've just been talking about, the cow's environment, identifying the squeeze points, where the stress points are. Just same as you and me, reduce the stress, you're happier, you're healthier, just the same as the cow. That's what that service tries to achieve. Services, it's not just a case of looking after cows, you need to measure them. If you measure them, then you can manage them. So there's Dairy Manager costings, most widely used costings in the country. You can enter your data, so enter your data on the website or send it to us by post if you really must, and we'll send you back an analysis of the margins you're generating. This is just the basic monthly report, but there's a whole suite of reports that goes through giving you measures of all the essential factors to know what your bottom line is ultimately in the final report from your dairy herd. There are a whole other range of services that we do. I'd mentioned that in the development sector of our business, we've developed the carbon footprinting models that do the footprinting for all the supplies into Sainsbury's, not just the dairy side, but all the other beef, sheep, pigs, poultry, veg, top fruit, crops, you name it. And there are other things like there's websites developed for first milk producers to be able to compare their businesses against others and that sort of thing. So we're both involved with on the farm growing crops right through to sophisticated IT programs and web-based services. So talking about the actual application that we made, I'll talk to you about the actual project at the end. It's precision cow health management. Very flattered that Callum chose to put that up as the example of a livestock enterprise project that's been funded when he was presenting. We call it How's My Cow. Consortium building. You've got a bright idea in your head. You might have had it for a long time. I've had plenty of them floating about, and some of them you think are completely bonkers, and other ones you go, it'd be really nice to do that, but you know, I don't know that we've got the funding or the resources to do that. And this funding has allowed us to actually get into that, and it is quite a game changer. If you're not yet involved in this sort of funding, I strongly recommend that you really engage. There's been some really good information. Having heard the advice that David and his colleagues have given today several times, and now it really makes sense to me because I'm on the other end of it, having successfully got some funding. And you know, it's not such a stupid idea. If you haven't picked it all up today, go to Peterborough tomorrow and listen to it again. Because it takes, well, certainly, I'm maybe not very good at this funding stuff, and it doesn't sink in first time. But maybe that's just me.
Don't go to Peterborough tomorrow. Don't go to Peterborough on Friday.
Oh, right. It's Valentine's Day. Anyway, you know, your journey from concept to commerciality, that's what this funding's about. You know, you've had that bright idea, you've got to turn it into some sort of technology, and you've then got to actually get it to market. And the TSB measures your success in the fact that you're going to turn it into money. There's been an awful lot of research funding. It's very pure research, and you're not actually allowed to talk about that filthy end product of actually making some money out of it. This is so refreshing to actually be involved in something where that is the ultimate measure, is that you're going to get a good return on your effort. So, consortium building, well, get to know the bioscientist KTN team. They attend these networking events, and as you're going to have the opportunity after the break, is promote your company's abilities, because it's not what you know, it's all about who knows what you know. And they might find out that they know more about you than you do yourself. So, you know, that putting people together, he's an absolute expert, right? He's going to get very big-headed now, but he put up something with some feedback. I wonder if I wrote it, because it's absolutely worth a bloody fortune to have that guy help you. Because he helped us find our consortium partner. We would never have found them on our own. So, you know, define what it is you want to achieve, and try and identify potential partners with complementary skills. And David and his colleagues will help you do that, because they've got their network out there. They know all about all these people who are out there, and they'll go, I know, put those people together with those people, and that's really strong. And then maybe this third one could come in, you know, and that would be a really good consortium. So you might not know the people at all at the moment, and that's what this is about. It's quite important to decide if you want to be a lead partner, because what I should say is, as a result of this networking, we were successful in getting our funding, but we're now also a consortium member of another bid, which we're waiting to hear the outcome of the full application later this month. And that's all through this activity. So, one of the important things to do is, get some sort of confidentiality agreement in place prior to any detailed discussions you may want to have with potential partners, because not everybody's going to necessarily join you, but they might walk away with some of your bright ideas. So you need to get that in place early on. And certainly, you've heard this already, the collaboration agreement, which needs to be in place before you ever get your funding. The TSB provides a very good model agreement, and it's what we used, but it still needs to be tailored to your own requirements. So you need to start early with your consortium partners in agreeing that collaboration, and that takes time. Anything with a legal tab on it takes a long time. And in amongst that, you need to identify who's going to own the resulting IP. Somebody asked that earlier on, because that can stall things for a very long time. And you have to sign that collaboration agreement before completing the pre-start documents. So writing the bid, well, it takes a long time. And it is and David said, you know, start early, start writing early, and if I look back, we've got so many versions of it where it went round and round between us and our consortium partners to get it really working effectively. You write it first time and think that's pretty good, but you know, working with our academic partners, the academic partners they've got real good skills themselves, and they've got resources in the university that we're able to draw on as well. There's a lovely lady called Sandra who, and sometimes it seemed to be a little bit irritating because she was saying, do you know, you want to change that little word there for that word there, and you think, oh, does it really matter? But you know, it does, because they know about this funding process much more than certainly I do. We're no experts at this at all, and so use the team you've built around you. The application forms themselves are in Word, but they're incredibly locked down. You think, oh, I want to be able to format that in a nice font and put some colour in here and whatever. Nope, you can't do any of that. It's grey, and it's absolutely in the box, and if your words don't fit in the box, they disappear out the bottom. So you've really got to work it that it fits into the space that's been provided. And you can understand why, because you hear the number of applications they've got. They don't want to be getting your great long flowery theses. They need to be able to work through. So you've got to fit it into the boxes, and that means being concise, no waffle. Because it's a three-stage process. So the first stage, we've heard of already, expression of interest. And that stage of the application is the first time you write about your ideas and so on. That as far as I can recall it, you're only able to put that on the form itself. There's no supporting documentation, so it is just in this lockdown form. It's at that stage you submit that, and it's at that stage the assessors look at that and come back with feedback. And if you're lucky, you then get invited to put in a full application. At which stage it's still a very locked down form, but there's more space on the form, and you're then able to provide appendices with background information, return on capital forecasts, and so on. And those can be in your own formatting. And then finally, if you get the conditional offer letter of a grant, then you're required to fill in pre-start documents in which you have to provide the detailed plans of what you're going to do, Gantt charts, cash flows, and so on. So that's writing the bids, if you like. And going back to after you've got your expression of interest feedback, it's very, very important to take account of that feedback. The reason I asked about the assessors would just be interested to know who they were. You're never going to find out, apparently. Sometimes the assessors are quite nice and enjoy the positive strokes, like an innovative project which seeks to use cutting-edge technology. Well, thanks very much. Plants have the appropriate blend of skills and expertise to deliver this one. Well done, chaps. That's really nice to know. You can go, right, well, we'll move on. But actually, it's the other ones that you need to take account of. Proposers don't seem to have done a cost-benefit analysis of the market opportunity. Additional information on potential value of overseas markets would have added to the case. And so we took account of all of that when we did the full application. We did more research to say, what is the potential for our development overseas and that sort of thing. And it's really refreshing to see that's what the TSB wants you to do. It's not all about what can we get into the UK. They want to see the UK flourishing internationally. So really vital that you take account of that feedback. Then, okay, timeline. Talking of which, yeah. Our bid was in the measurement of technology and agri-food systems. The announcement of the funding was in February last year. So in March we busy getting our consortium together. In April we had to submit the expression of interest. So Callum actually says, you've got to do this next one by June and whatever. Do you know what? I don't think that's a very long time at all. And I like to think we're an SME that's pretty fleet of foot and all that stuff, but by the time you've actually gone round and found your consortium members and talked to them and got your agreements and stuff in place, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of So then we got that feedback we've just been talking about in about May. We then had to submit the full application in June. We were then notified of the grant offer in July, and that's a really nice day when that comes through, I can tell you. That's pretty flattering. We've done all that work, and it's a lot of work. To say, well, these people think we're worth giving some money to. So we then had to get our collaboration agreement in place. Now, I don't know whether that is quite where it should be, but that's where it was for ourselves. Then the conditional offer letter came through, and we were required to attend a new project workshop in Swindon, I think it was. You need to listen really hard on that day, and I tell you what, you'll get information overload. That one is, well, maybe I'm just not very good at bureaucracy, but there's quite a lot of it to deal with, and we're still sort of wading our way through it right now. You get your pre-start, you need to submit your pre-start documents, as we did. So we started in February now until October. So the financial forecast, project plan, milestones, exploitation plan, risk register should be there somewhere. And the really nice one is you need to supply your bank details so they can pay you. That's quite nice to know. And finally, we started the project in November. Now, there wouldn't necessarily be a requirement to start that quickly. I know some of the other people who've been given funding under this maybe not started just until now. But, we wanted to get on with it. So we've completed our first quarter. My experience of it is it's a very disciplined approach to the whole thing. I joke about it being bureaucratic, but actually, you're being given public funding, so why not make sure there's probably checks and balances that you're going to use it right. So just to talk a little bit about what we've actually had funded, House Cow Precision Cow Health Management is going to be using innovative imaging technology to actually look at dairy cows on a once or twice daily basis to pick up 3D, 4D information in a completely non-invasive, unobtrusive way. So the cow will not know that she's being imaged at all. And that's the key thing. So we go back to what Callum said about our project and saying, if you're body condition scoring cows now, well, that's you wandering around in the yard with a clipboard or whatever. That's actually, the cows actually are then aware of you, they're going to be a heck of a lot more aware of you than they're going to be aware of our technology, which is currently going to be imaging them. They won't even know it's happening. But it's turning that image information into data, which we're aiming to be able to measure body condition score, lameness, and potentially weight. And that data, that image will be turned into data which will be sent through to a central server that will be operating, and we then turn that image data into farm management information, which is then transmitted back to the end users in whatever format they're going to find it most useful. So whether it's onto their desktop or onto some sort of phone or tablet, in order for them to be able to make better informed decisions about their cow management and their herd health management. There's quite a lot of work to do to actually get the imaging side of it set up. We're actually having to build something on the farm in order to accommodate the imaging. Meanwhile, University of Western England colleagues are developing the imaging technology. There's also then going to be a huge part of it which is writing the programs to interpret that data and provide it back as useful information for the end users. And the end user is not going to just be the farmer, clearly. This sort of thing is going to be useful to enable consultants and vets and others involved with that herd to be more proactive, even when they're not actually on the farm, because they can be virtually viewing those cows, even when they might be on the other side of the world. So, in our case, it's a small consortium, and then it's just us and the University of Western England. During the consortium building, we did have discussions with another potential partner, but during those discussions, perfectly amicably, it was agreed that they would not be part of it. So that's where we are. I would say probably that makes it quite a bit simpler than having a whole queue of different collaborators together, because there's a lot to do to keep them all talking to each other. So as the industry partner, we're the lead partner with our academic partner in UWE. An important part of what you do is exploitation. You need to write about that in your application. You need to say how are you going to get word out about what you're doing, very proud to say that we've made it onto the homepage of UWE's website. And so if you want to read more about it, you can go and find it on the UWE website. So that's me, Mr. Chairman.